Hello and welcome to the Undressing the Spirit podcast, where sex and spirit go hand in hand. Join me, Tamara Powell, on a no-holds-barred adventure into the psyche and beyond every conceivable limit. Welcome back to Undressing the Spirit. I'm your host, Tamara Powell. And today I'm once again joined by the incredible, the incomparable Alexandra Cavucci for the Cracked Open series. This one is all about the journey of becoming and the fears that pop up with taking the leap. So whether it's ending a toxic relationship, starting a new business, or simply leaving organized religion, you name it, there are times when we outgrow the situations that we are in and we know we have to take the leap. But it can often feel like you're standing in a helicopter staring at nothingness, afraid to jump out. We're here for you. We totally get it. As Alex points out, everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fuck it. So without further ado, I invite you to join us on this journey of becoming. Welcome to the Cracked Open series. I'm Tamara Powell.
And I'm Alexandra Cavucci.
And we believe that we're all really just shells hoping to be chiseled open so we can see the universe within.
We hope to pave the way for you if you're looking for a place to be cracked open, unraveled, and join us on this journey.
So we'll show you ours if you'll show us yours. Hey, Alex.
Oh, good morning.
I am so excited to be back with you.
So excited to be back. And for the listeners, I brought you a real treat. I still have raspy Tony Robbins voice. So
it's so Katharine Hepburn. I love it.
We're going to keep it going as long as my body makes it continue.
Let's just make it part of our branding.
All right.
They get the raspy and the sultry.
Ooh.
We could seriously do the best porn if we were in another lifetime, like voiceovers.
I always told Dre, like, if we ever really got desperate for money, I would open up a phone sex line because not only do I have the voice, but I also used to write erotica when I was single and lonely. And I've always told her, I don't think we're ever going to want for money because I always have a really good backup.
So great.
So
this is a slight tangent, but I want to follow up for a hot second. That reminds me of Anais Nin's erotica that she wrote, where she was getting paid $1 a page. So some of the stories are just like,
get in on this.
Yeah. I mean, think about back in the 30s, 40s, 50s. I guess it was probably in the 40s or 50s when she did it. I'd have to go back and look, but so that was decent money, man.
Yeah.
And so she just had to write specifically for this one guy's, fetishes. Fascinating.
I feel like it's a maybe not an untapped industry, but
it's been tapped.
I think it's been tapped.
Ironically close to what we're talking about today, though, becoming and the leaping in fear that's involved with it.
Yes. So excited to talk about this. Before we go live, Tams and I always
consult,
try to figure out, hey, what do we want to talk about? And this topic was too exciting and too broad that we just decided to dive in. So you're coming along the journey with us to see where we end up. But leaping, becoming, jumping is something that affects all of us in every stage of our lives. Otherwise, we would never grow. We would never actualize. We would never birth anything new into the world. So I'm super excited to talk about this.
And that just reminds me of that dream that I posted yesterday on Facebook. Did you see that one where I dreamt that I was giving a lecture to a big room about potatoes, the spiritual life of a potato?
No, but I would not be surprised.
It was so bizarre. I always remember my dreams, but in this one, I was like, really? A potato? But what was fascinating is that I remembered all of the talking points. And
That's so funny.
I know. And one of them was that if you are next to, a potato that's rotting, and my existential mind, it was because they didn't have the lady balls or the balls to to make the
potato
leap.
balls.
Yeah, the potato balls to make the leap, to become. And so it's dangerous to hang out with those people for too long because you'll start to rot, right?
Oh my goodness.
I know. Spiritual
my
life of a
goodness.
potato. Maybe it was for this moment right here, right now.
It was for this moment. Ask yourself what kind of potatoes you've been hanging out with.
And I literally looked at my, spirit guides, angels, whatever you're into, and was like, is there something in this for me? That I literally remembered the whole dream.
Yes, they were like, yes, a podcast.
A podcast. And what you were talking about, though, that's what I love about this series, is it is a little more raw and unscripted, which keeps my perfectionist in check. The other podcasts where I do interviews or a solo podcast, even more so, it is more, scripted out of, I want to cover this, make sure that I ask that. And with you, I trust you so well, our energy so beautiful, that we can explore all the things without having to have set scripts.
That's such a big compliment because, if you think about it, we're doing every week what we're talking about today.
Yes.
We're just leaping and we're just seeing what happens. And I think that's a really good testament to the fact that leaping, jumping, becoming can happen on a slightly smaller scale, like 45-minute podcast episodes. And it can also happen on massive scales, like starting a business, getting a divorce, changing the trajectory of your life in a massive way. And so this really, also potatoes, this really, really covers and spans everything from what we're doing right now in this moment to, every big decision we've ever made in our lives.
Amen. And so back to that first point on the spiritual life of a potato, maybe that'll be the name of this broadcast.
Yes, please.
What potatoes do you hang out with? Because it is important to realize who you can trust. I trust you implicitly with my potato energy. And so I'm not afraid that I'm going to end up embarrassed or too vulnerable. You hold the space with me very well.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel the same way about you.
Yes. So let's take that further, though, about making the change. Another talking point in my potato dream was about how when a potato starts to sprout, when it's time to move on and it starts growing these things off of its side, and that can look really weird to people.
Totally.
People may not even like it.
Totally. Like, you mean the ones that have been sitting in the potato bowl for too long?
Yes.
I've definitely had quite a few of those.
And you start sprouting.
I'm like, it's growing hair. Yeah.
Exactly. Aren't they growing other potatoes? Isn't that how they grow? I don't know.
Probably. Yeah, probably. But I think that speaks to the consistent requirement for growth that we have as humans.
Right. It's going to happen. It's inevitable, bitches.
Right. And trying to prevent my potato from growing potato hair and growth.
So good.
We've probably lost everybody now at this point. It's impossible, right? It's impossible. Just like it's impossible to stop it's possible in humans, but I think it's extremely painful because humans are designed to grow, to hit next levels, to explore spirituality, to feel, to cry, and all of that stuff is taking a leap into the unknown, Yes.
I want to go into that even further about how this is what frustrates me as a natural type 7. We were talking about that, the enthusiast. Like it hurts to watch other people hurt in the limbo because I am just naturally a leaper, sometimes too quickly, too impulsively, and I have to work on that. But to see, people are so afraid of what happens after the leap. But that fear is, I often tell my clients, it's so illusory. Like what you are afraid of, we talked about this on our last volume together, is not the thing on the other side. It's really not. It's how you're going to feel in the process. And I can't placate you. It's not fun. I went through several, I was telling you, big ones in my life. I may always be a leaper, but divorce, that was scary as fuck. Starting Aria is not a mainstream counseling practice. Leaving mainstream Christianity, huge. It's still scary to me when I encounter other, pastors and people that I've hung out with. I find myself taming myself down, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that limbo period, I want to dive into that with you. That to me is the worst most painful spot when you're the potato, not willing to let yourself change, even though the change is inevitably happening. Oh my God, the pinching effects of that.
And it's really interesting. You're a 7, and you mentioned that you are just like leaping all over the place, right? You're really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the perspective of I grapple with it. I have definitely stayed too long before, and I'm self-deprecating. It's really easy to stay in that, and blah blah. I also have always found creativity in limbo because I'm sad, and what do I do? And that spawns creativity, right? And
It's like a country song.
right, and I've also found, however, over the years, I've been one to stay deep in limbo and for far too long. And I have found over the course of forced growth that it is more painful to stay in limbo than it is to make a leap. And as of the last 2 years, I've been learning to fall in love with leaping, even though I'm terrified as hell. But I've been learning to fall in love with it. So it's really cool that you have the perspective of somebody who has just always been a leaper. And yeah, you get the feelings of being afraid, right? But you're a leaper. And I'm somebody who's kind of come from a different background of, I've always been a sticker. I've stuck in so many spots, and coming out of that, which speaks really well to the fact that you don't have to stay in limbo if you're somebody that tends to. Right.
And for those who have no idea what we're talking about our Enneagram type profile. You can find yours out at the enneagraminstitute.com. We totally need to get an affiliate link from them.
I know.
It's $12, and it is the most beautiful exploration of yourself I could ever give you. I make all of my clients take it because it just helps me see how they see the world and what they're prone to. And the reason I love the Enneagram as opposed to some of the other personality type indicators out there is because, number one, it's ancient. It's been around forever. But it's also been applied to modern psychology. And it's so broad. It covers spiritual giftings and levels of health. And I've heard recently, and I cannot wait to dive into this, the Jesuit priests that first took it on in the 60s and 70s were applying it to zodiac signs. So, girl, you and I are going to have so many coffee conversations once I get into that.
Ooh.
Right.
So good.
Fascinating to me. And also who we tend to hook up with in life. I realized this week all the synchronicities. You're a type 4, and Ashley Greer's a type 4, and my best friend Dolph's a type 4. So it's what is it about my happy 7 that loves the rootedness at times of a 4? It just makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And it is really funny how we attract, Dre, my partner, is a 9, and my best friend since college, who's very much an anchor for me. She's a 9, and they're peacemakers.
There you go.
And it's funny because my mind, my internal experience is anything but peace, right? I'm I'm feeling this one minute, I'm this, I'm that, I'm up and down. And they create, I used to get really bored. I used to feel is Dre going to bore me because she's not dramatic and da-da-da. And in fact, she has brought a level of ease to my life that I never thought possible. So check out your Enneagram,
Yes.
check out what you are, and it'll give you so many answers.
And I think it'll really help with this conversation we're having today. What is the particular nuance of the struggle of becoming?
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't get down with the one size fits all psychology. I can't. Why is it hard for me to leap versus why is it hard for you to leap?
Right. And then bringing in, additionally, nurture. What have we been taught? What have we seen? I think if you grow up with Russell Brunson as a father who's leaping and building big businesses, you're probably more likely to jump. I heard, what's her name? Sarah Blakely. Is that her?
Yes.
Of Spanx.
Mm-hmm.
She said that every night at the dinner table, her father said, "What did you fail at today?"
I love that.
And would celebrate it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think too, she got nurtured to celebrate her leaps.
Yes.
To celebrate the difficult moment.
And see, I didn't. My father, I'm thinking of the hardest ones for me, divorce and leaving mainstream Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
My father, who I'm pretty sure is a type 2 with a one wing, he would give everything off his back, out of our house, whatever other people needed, much to the chagrin of my type 9 the one-wing mother who was like, what are you that's great that you're so generous, John, but you're going to like give us out of house and home here. And he is so steadfast, right? He did not, you just don't leave. That is quitting to him. And so when it came to, I shared this on a previous podcast, when it came to my very abusive marriage, when I called him in tears, he was like, you go to your pastor, you pray about it, and you stay. Stick it out. And when it came to leaving mainstream Christianity, my parents have always had this thing, because we were military, we went to whatever church was nearest that was closest to our identification as Assemblies of God. And it was, even if you didn't like the pastor per se, or, things weren't perfect, God works in spite of people as much as he works through people, which I get down with. I do. But he was like, you don't get to be a social butterfly. You get planted in a church and you serve your church and you serve your community. It sounds so pretty on paper. And so it fucked with me, right? Absolutely. I didn't want to be a quitter. I didn't have that mentality that the founder of Spanx, billion-dollar company,
absolutely
had. What about your background?
Yeah, and I grew up with a mother who would cut out articles from the newspaper to show me how unsafe the world was. Like, three people got raped. I want you to read this so that you're safe out there. I already know to be safe out there, right? Like,
Thanks, Mom.
or
holy crap.
She's also a nurse, and now she's a psychiatric nurse. But before she was, I don't know, a regular nurse. I don't know. And so, I've always heard about the dangers of, like, if you see this on your body, get to a hospital fast. And if you this, get to a hospital fast. And if this happens, da-da-da, and this happens, da-da-da. And so the fear that was instilled in me is still incredibly prevalent. And Dre, obviously my partner of 5 years, has met her quite a few times, and they're really close. And she said when she met my mother, she was like, I see why you're so afraid
I get it now.
Of everything, because I was taught to always be alert and afraid. And one thing I notice about my mother, and I love her, but one thing I notice about her is she wants to do so many things that she'll never take the leap of doing. And so it's funny that I was nurtured that way, but also because of her example, I am more inclined to want to leap, to want to learn how, to want to, I've almost used her example as a way to learn how to jump, because I'm more afraid of being as afraid as she has been. So it's really interesting to see the different paths and nuances that we get with learning about leaping and learning about jumping and becoming. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, and it's a good point for our listeners is hey, number one, stop shitting on yourself if leaping's hard. It's fucking hard for all of us, okay?
Right.
Number two, this isn't about blaming our parents. It's about noticing. Explanations are not excuses. And so we're all a combination. This is what the Enneagram teaches in every spiritual wisdom tradition ever. We are a combination of nature and nurture. Right. And so I realized this week I came into this world with a predisposition of just unbridled joy and a desire for excellence. But then I was born into a family system that was almost like it's excellence or not. It's like you almost couldn't be good enough, and this whole authoritarian, immediate obedience. And this, it's not that it's twisted, but it was a desire to serve at all costs. And so that taught me that my own feelings
at your expense.
Right. And so interestingly enough, my mom's also a nurse. Fascinating. But she was the opposite. She was the emotionally attached. She takes the type 9 to the nth degree, where in order to keep the peace, and I only learned this about her recently, I was like, oh, I can see that this was coming out of love. She would numb out. Right. And so if I got hurt, she'd be like, well, like I remember vividly stepping on a nail and she'd be like, well, did you pull it out? Like so pragmatic. So, I'm like no nurture in it whatsoever. And when it came to leaping, that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
The becoming process was a problem because I learned, like most people on the planet, only parts of me were going to be accepted.
And here's kind of where, like, you can get dizzy diving into your own history.
Yeah, be careful.
For our listeners, because I do, right? Because I've tried to figure out the why of every single thing, every single reason why I'm the way I am
on the planet. I have so much empathy for you guys.
Oh God, so exhausting. And what it all comes down to for anybody, though, and I just want to say this while we're on the topic of diving deep, because what it comes down to, especially when you become an adult with your own brain and opinions, what it comes down to is making a choice and making a decision. And even before that, recognizing that you have a choice and you have a decision.
Always.
Regardless of your past, regardless of your type, regardless of anything. Because I was one to believe that, like, well, I'm fucked. That's just the way I am. Right? Like, I grew up with a terrified mother. I grew up with this. I'm a 4. I'm self-deprecating, da-da-da-da. And I wallowed in that shit for a really long time, for much of my 20s. And it wasn't until I started recognizing choice and decision as 2 tools that a lot of people don't use, that things started changing. And so I think it's so fascinating to see where we are born from, the nature, the nurture. And it's also imperative to recognize that within all of this is choice and decision.
Every time.
And everybody gets that, right? And I know that you're huge on that. You're huge.
It's my number one thing.
Totally. And I think that's, that seems to be part of the reason why you don't like to let people wallow. You don't like to sit there and enable it.
It hurts me. It literally.
Because you recognize. Yeah.
I have cried with clients over that right there. I'm like, it tortures my soul when they won't make a choice. And it's like, I am not attached to the outcome of your choice, one way or the other. Stay in this marriage, don't. But you refusing to make a choice is in itself a choice.
Absolutely.
And in that case,
it's a disempowered choice.
Yes.
Right.
And all of the psychological research shows that that's where the most depression and most anxiety comes from. Your brain doesn't care which choice you make. It'll actually pipe the fuck down once you make one.
Yeah. And this kind of reminds me of Mel Robbins' 5-second rule. Have you read that?
Girl, I did. I spread that shit everywhere. It's on my automated.
Yeah, and she's like, make the decision before your brain kicks in.
It's backed by neuroscience.
To stop you from making the decision. Yeah. And it's, we have that power. I call it my fuck it moment, right? Like everything, the quote I always use with my clients and with a lot of other people is everything you want is on the other side of fuck it.
It's
but
true.
I noticed with your fuck it moment, you only have that moment.
Right.
That fuck it moment. When you have that knowledge enough to say fuck it and jump. Or fuck it, I'm making the decision in my head to get a divorce. Or fuck it, I'm changing my marketing plan. Or fuck it, whatever it is, there's a fuck it moment.
Yes.
Before and backing every decision that we make.
There is. They're just people aren't aware of it. And that's my biggest goal with today's podcast is giving them comfort and helping them build the awareness in it. You're doing it all day long. You're already a master at this.
Right. Well, yeah. And it's time to empower yourselves to know that, right? It's funny because we are a master at this, yet so many of us can easily give the power away to the illusion that we have no choice, even though that's also a choice. Yeah. It's so funny.
Game. It's like that potato rotting from the inside out in the dark, cool, dry place and not even realizing it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're literally dying. Are you ready to leap? No. Damn it.
Get up. Yeah.
Save your life with me. And they're like, that's dramatic. And I'm like, but is it? Is it though?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really coming to have a deep appreciation for people like you. Because I used to find identity in that.
Yeah.
I used to find identity. Yeah, it's very dangerous. I used to find identity in the struggle and the limbo. And it wasn't really until, I started getting into personal development. I still did it for a while, but it wasn't until I had some powerful friends and coaches and my partner being like, you like staying there.
Yeah, I call it stroking the pain, baby. And anytime anything, including personality types, becomes part of your identity, you've already lost the game.
Right.
It's like I said, they are explanations, but you are not that. Whatever it is that is Alex is not her thoughts, her feelings, her behaviors.
Right.
You're the beautiful divine blueprint flow behind that thing.
Right. Right.
Like the second that I label you, I negate you, according to Kierkegaard, who I fucking love. Right?
Ooh, I love that.
Right? Oh, that's literally Arya in a nutshell. On one hand, what I love about the Enneagram or anything else, including that awful DSM that I have to use to diagnose people, is that from my point of view, it gives us resources. The second that you build this awareness that we're trying so hard to light a fire under everyone's ass with today, then you go, oh, yes, that's why I do that thing. Okay, and now we're saying, but now what? Get up. Do something with that.
Yes. Yes, and that's where it's powerful. You can know the whys all day long. And I see this with some of my clients at some point, and you can call this, I don't know, poor form, whatever. At some point, I believe in this. I stop the story. And I say, you're in story again.
Yes.
And, I had a therapist when I was in my early 20s and a really bad time. And I remember thinking to myself, I didn't know enough yet, but I remember thinking to myself, is this all that I get to do is just fucking go around and around and around and around and around and around? Like nothing's changing for me. And I couldn't put my finger on it. Right. And it took, half a decade more and devouring tons and tons of books and to understand, to understand that story is story. That's it, right? And so I really admire and love women like you who will say, "What the fuck you gonna do about it?" Because I know that I've needed those women in my life. I know it. Otherwise, I would still be in the same place.
You're so the beautiful yin to my yang, literally, because I am the exact opposite. And I love that about you because I will leap knowing that I have to. We're very, I don't know, almost instinctual. That's the 8 wing in me. It's the instinctual triad. But I often feel so lonely because I haven't been able to sit in my feels and explore that.
So I want to really interesting perspective,
right? I need to give people permission to do both sides of things, and so I love when somebody like you or Rumi, one of my favorite type 4s, can go, but let's explore how you're feeling now that you've made the leap, or what caused you to make the leap. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think as you're saying that, it's really important to find that balance, and to each their own, right? To each their own balance.
And the bottom line, we both had to make the leap.
Right. The bottom line is if you don't leap, you don't grow.
You rot.
You rot. And nobody eats a rotten potato. No. If you don't leap, you don't grow. However, it's your choice to decide how long you want to stay in limbo. And also, where can you find a good balance of exploring the emotional aspect of limbo and leaping versus taking the action steps, right? Yeah. And it's really finding that beautiful balance and knowing what is that for you. I do really well wallowing and exploring and blah, 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 blah. And so for me, it's imperative that, for example, I spent the first couple of years of my relationship, Dre created a lot of space for me, which was hard for her because she's like, just fucking get out of your head, right? And she created a lot of space for me, and it was really, really beautiful and really, really lovely. And one day in the car, we were driving, and I was in the same circle, same cycle I'd been in with something about me. And she was like, cut the shit. And I was shocked. And I was like, what? And she was like, you do this to yourself all the fucking time. And I love holding space for you. And I love how emotional you are. But at some point, you just bring yourself down to the depths of despair for no fucking reason. And I remember my brain, first of all, I was turned on. Second of all, my brain, I recognized I've been asking her to do me a favor of giving me space when the last thing I needed was space. I needed somebody to smack me upside the head and say, I respect you, I honor your feelings, but you have to do something about this.
Yeah, she pulled your parachute cord.
Absolutely.
Before
And
you approached the door.
Totally. And thank goodness. And now she does that. She can snap me out of it really well. And it works for me. And so it's finding that balance of like, I know I'm a wallower. So having somebody snap me is really, really helpful, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you're a jumper. So having somebody check in with you is probably really, really helpful.
Yes, I need the exact opposite. I need someone to be like, slow down, Tams.
Yeah, like, what's up? What's going on?
Why are you doing this? Because
check in.
That's a nuance we haven't explored yet, and I really want to because this also frustrates me and makes me sad in people. I'm just being very transparent with y'all. Don't think I don't love all of my clients. I love each and every one of them so dearly it sometimes hurts. Mm-hmm. But there's a specific flavoring of person who takes this and takes pride in the leaping and actually heads down this very unhealthy path of impulsivity and being proud of it. Okay, so great. You're the Navy SEAL that has no problems jumping out of a plane. Are you doing it too quickly?
Yeah.
Are you doing it because your fear, your flavor of fear is in settling and having the roots?
Yes.
There's not always better shit on the other side.
Yeah. And that can lead to running.
Hell yes, this is what I'm proposing. And you don't become then because your potato hairs are too fine. They're not building good roots here.
Right. Yeah. And then it's a constant, the running can become the chase.
Mm-hmm. And
right?
I work
and something to chase something else.
Yes, I see this in all sorts of areas of life, including people who end up with what we call relationship OCD, where nobody ends up being good enough. They chase the high, the dopamine, the prolactin of those first 3 months of a relationship.
Yeah. You know, I was in a conversation with someone recently getting my hair cut. I doubt he'll hear this, but and he said to me something. You know, the first time I got my hair cut from him, I go to a barbershop because I've got shorter hair on one side. I love it. Me too. And the barbershop is called 333 is my angel number. And, you know, I was in conversation with him yesterday. I got a haircut yesterday. And he said something along those lines. He was like, I don't have any time. I don't have time for anybody's shit. And I always know that it's going to go wrong. It's around like month 2 or 3 because I can see that they're going to piss me off.
There it is. And
in my head, I was like, oh shit, they're going to piss you off. Like the love of my life pisses me off. She pissed me off like probably last night, right?
Amen.
Like when she fell asleep during the movie.
You're so the same woman. Experience this with me. Come on.
Yeah. I'm like, she's not feeling the emotions that I'm feeling. Damn it. She's not supporting me.
This is why I get you. I so get it.
Yeah. And I thought that to myself. I was like, he's a leaper. He doesn't want to sit with it. He doesn't want to sit with the fact that women are imperfect and the fact that he's imperfect and the fact that it requires growth and becoming to create a sustainable relationship.
Yes. Oh, so good. I'm just going to swoon for a hot second. Kavuchi swoon in full progress.
Hashtag Kavuchi
swoon. That's going to go next to my hashtag Kavuchi quotable.
Yeah.
Are you totally hopping on your Facebook Lives? Go ahead, hashtag Kavuchi quotable.
I love it. I love it. It gives my four self-deprecating part of me like a little bit of an anchor.
And hopefully it'll serve as a marker for you to go back through that live and go, I should make that into a Canva.
Yeah. Dre's always like, you need to watch all of your lives and write down everything that you say because you've got a year's worth of content.
You do. Or just have someone like me who swoons over it constantly, keep marking it for you so that you don't have to watch the whole thing. You just go back to that spot.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like if P. Diddy can have an umbrella holder, you and I can each have somebody that is our cheerleader that marks our spots on our Facebook Lives.
Girl, you know it.
Right?
I'm ready.
Come on now. If you want that position for free.
We're taking applications at www.
It needs to be something that lights you up, though, because it's probably not going to come with a lot of pay.
Yeah. One day.
One day. But I love what you are describing about how that inhibits our personal growth, which is the whole point, right? We're all on this journey of becoming, and life is a series of leaps. And it's also a series of gestations, though. And I think that that's what he's missing. He's missing the potato part where we're in the ground and everything's still dark and you have to gestate for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And otherwise, like you said, it's continually running to try to catch something, leaping without enjoying, jumping without feeling. And that leads to, in some ways, staying in the same place.
Every time. That's the weird part, is that I end up seeing them every 3 months or so because the relationship bottomed out.
Yeah. And so, it's kind of this difference between physically staying in the same place or same situation versus emotionally staying in the same place and same situation, because you can leap and change your situation, only to stay in the same emotional spot. Or you can wait and understand your emotions, only to never move situations, change your circumstances, right?
Yes.
And so it's this like ebb and flow of what am I prone to? What am I willing to do?
Perfect. So let's lead into, how would people know when it is time to gestate versus when it's time to make the leap? I see it as paying attention to your intuition and your feels. When you truly know yourself, I know I sound like a goddamn broken record, but I have to take it back to that. When you know what you are typically prone to, then you can start to make intuition your best friend, which if you missed that episode, go back to volume 6.
Yeah.
And also my one with Ruan Mibagala on sexual transmutation. We talk about that too, how intuition can become your best friend. But you nurture it by knowing yourself well. I know for me personally, as a type 7 who loves to leap, it shows up as this angsty feeling that I get. It's like in my throat and my stomach, like everything in me. if I'm on the side of leaping too quickly, I just want to cut and run. Like I was telling you before the call, if I'm in a conversation with my daughters that's frustrating the shit out of me and I'm not able to just hold space for them being their angsty little selves in that moment, I get this innate ball of, I just want to like yell at them or say something that could accidentally hurt their feelings. Don't judge, y'all can do it too.
Yeah.
Which
just
makes them, I guess, shut up or move away from me, which is gives me what I'm craving right then. This is too much. I want out. And so if I feel like I want to be 1990s Britney Spears driving up 29 towards Alabama, there's nothing up there, girl. Windows down, like hair crazed, no bra on, cigar out the window. Yeah. If y'all see me, just wave and go, Tams is having a day. That's how I know that I am heading down the unhealthy side for my particular personality type.
And I love that you said that where to notice it. Because, we started talking about this and I was like, how would the leapers notice it if they don't want to feel it, right? And I think a really good thing that you just outlined is recognize your urges. Because when I'm afraid, right, if you get afraid of sitting in it, or if you get like, your urge is to leap. Your urge is to run, get in the car on the way to Alabama. My urge is to seek more information, find out why, figure it out, ask my mother for some newspaper clippings, journal forever. But then, like, also avoid journaling, right? I'll sit and stare at the page and write one thing and be like, oh, I have to go do something else, I have to meditate, right? Like, so my urge is to find an answer when really the only thing I need to do is make a decision or take an action.
Yep.
And so look at your urges. If you have a tough time feeling or if you have a tough time acting, a great way to figure out what your pattern is, a great way to figure out where your imbalance is when something becomes uncomfortable or you're afraid, look at what you desire to do. Run or figure it out before you do anything. And in that will lie a lot of information on where you may need balance and where you may need to challenge yourself.
Perfect. And on the flip side of that, for me, like with the divorce or with leaving mainstream Christianity, when it did become time to leap and I'm standing at the edge of that, diving board, staring at the water that seemed like it was 5 million feet below me, I knew that I had to do it when I was no longer feeling like myself. I know it's a weird thing to say, but each of the types on the Enneagram, or however you want to categorize yourself, don't care, because again, labels are weird. For me, in my own skin, I naturally typify joy. I feel good when I am vibrating at this frequency of, isn't life magical? Isn't there the sense of wonder? And when I did not have that, and I could not show up as that in my marriage, and I could not show up as that within my faith system, it was time to go. When you start losing pieces of yourself consistently, and here's another clue that I give my counseling clients, look around at everywhere else in your life. Where is the consistent shutting down? If it's only in this area, girl, that thing is not for you, boo. Right? Yep. If I was joyful with my children, and I'm joyful with my friends, and I'm joyful with the adventures I take myself on, and it's only here in a relationship or in this church building, that's a big sign.
That's a great point. So looking for patterns as compared to everything in your life, right? Like, how am I in my relationship? How am I in my friendships? How am I this? Where am I feeling different things? And if something sticks out, to
leap,
take a look at it, explore it, leap, get the fuck out of there.
That is some black and white evidence for your anxious brain, okay? It's scary, but before we go, let's tap into that one more time, though. The fear of the leap is actually the worst part, and it's illusory. It's not real.
No, it's not. I did a fire walk a few weeks ago at Tony Robbins, and he spends an hour or two like pumping us up, right? We're like chanting yes. We sounded like a cult. We're like, yes.
I love
it. yes. And he showed us what to do, and he gave us all these, don't look down because your body will, your nerves will connect to your brain, whatever.
Yeah.
And I noticed, I stepped up on the grass. You step on grass and then you walk for 6 steps on hot coal, and then you step on grass, 2 people catch you, and you step in a hose. And I noticed, I stepped on the grass, and this big, bulky, muscular, bald man, looked in my eye, and he's like, when I say take a step, you just take a fucking step. You don't even think, you just take a fucking step. And he was like, the minute you step, you're going to pull yourself through. He's like, the first step is what you're afraid of. The first step is what you're afraid of, because you'll pull yourself through because you have no choice. And he's like, don't look down. You're just afraid of the first step. But when I say go, don't even think, you're just afraid of the first step. And I remember my brain saying, don't do it. This guy's a fucking lunatic. Don't do it. But I'd made the decision to do it. And in that moment, I saw 2 separate parts of myself playing with each other. And it was really fascinating because I was afraid, even though I'd made a decision. And I was afraid, even though 14,000 other people were doing this and not getting hurt. And I was afraid, even though I literally knew what was on the other side. I literally knew there was a hose and 2 people to catch me. And I was afraid, even though I knew that this had been a part of his program for 20 years. And I was afraid, even though I knew that there was medical attention in case. And I was afraid. And what it spoke to me was, it is an illusion. It is such an illusion, because I had more certainty than I've had with most of the leaps I've taken, right? Most of the things that I've been afraid to do. I've had more certainty with this, yet my fear was pulsating through my body, and it was trying to override my decision. And it really went to show me, like, you're afraid of an illusion, and if you take the first step, everything in you will carry you through.
I love that. In fact, I had total body chills as you're describing, as how your body pulls you through. Once you make the decision, right? Even before, once you're let me put it in terms of neuroscience. Once the frontal lobe is like, yes, we're doing this thing, the limbic system has to come along. I don't care. It's like dragging it, kicking and screaming. It's like, that's fine. We're going. And I love that there's no choice in it, because for me, people say that all the time, like, Tams, how do you do these things? As you know, it's like, you're so driven. And I'm like, yes, but it's not without fear. Sometimes there was no fucking choice. I was a single mom in grad school. There was no other option. Failure was not an option.
Yeah.
And when you give yourself permission to think of those terms, is that dramatic? Yeah, but all right, that works for me. The fire that then comes, ironically, talking about firework, in my belly, like I feel my whole solar plexus and even my head get hot. And I'm like, yes, does it hurt at times? Okay, yeah, I'm not going to placate you. Divorce was hard. But you know what's worse? Rotting.
Yes. Yes. And I think you bring up a really good point, because, a lot of people are afraid. A lot of people are really afraid to fail, to have their back up against a wall. But I want to illuminate the fact that if you fail, if you have your back up against a wall, bitch, you'll be more powerful than you've ever been.
And what the fuck is failure anyway?
Right. I mean, like, failure is bullshit, number one. So, like, for, like,
that's
let's just side note that.
Illusory too. Like, whatever.
Failure is bullshit. But, I think a lot of people are afraid of, I'm afraid I'll have no money left, right? If I invest and I don't get it, I'm afraid I'll have no money left. If you have no money left, you have no fucking choice but to make some money.
Damn.
And
all the time. You'll figure it out. I donated back in the day, y'all. Like,
Totally. I had a friend when I was working my 9 to 5. She was hilarious.
Yeah.
I had a friend who would come in and be like, donating my eggs again.
Yes. I mean, 10 grand.
Alex, it's $8,000 fucking dollars. I got to do it. She's got the Boston accent, thick Boston accent.
Yes.
And Alex, I got to do it. I'm going to get, I went to Dunkin' Donuts and now I'm going to donate my eggs again. And she did it. And
yes.
She figured out what she needed to do to make some more money.
That is commitment right there.
I'm not saying you're going to have to donate. Yeah, I'm not saying you have to donate your eggs, but I'm saying
you will
there's
figure it out.
Always something to do.
Yes.
You will figure it out. You will figure it out.
It's amazing the stuff that opened up to us. I mean, I lived on my sister's couch for 2.5 years while putting myself through grad school, and we got bunk beds donated by people. I mean, it's beautiful. When you move, the universe steps in to meet you every fucking time.
Yes.
Don't make it more complicated than it is. We've talked about this before. It's like the hot and cold game as a kid. If I had this pen and you had to follow the warmer cues. That's all you have to do. And the warmer cues are already inside you. I'm getting woo, but I don't care.
No, I love that.
Whether we are created or evolved, you have an entire biofeedback system within you to let you know if you're getting warmer or colder.
I love it. I love hearing you talk about this stuff. Because this is where I go, tell me more. Yeah. Tell me more. Right? It's like probably that 4 part of me that's worried I can't change. I'm like, yeah, I can change.
Really? Totally change, second by second. That makes it so damn complicated. It's not. And the universe always will meet you. And this isn't some mamby-pamby Joel Osteen. Don't send me hate mail if you love him. I love him too for his cheerleading side. But this isn't suddenly you're going to get $1 million just because you asked the universe for it. No. What I'm saying, though, is that the universe may give you some creativity. The universe may give you some clarity. The universe may give you some divine opportunities where suddenly you bump into people that may want to collaborate with you or may have resources that you need.
Right?
Yes.
And I think, I had a little bit of a breakdown yesterday because I always hit this point where I just need to cry. And I had a really big cry yesterday. And what came out was really fascinating to me. I was talking to Dre while I was just crying for an hour and a half. And I realized there was what came out, all this fear was in me because I'm in the middle of a leap right now.
Mm-hmm.
And all this fear was coming up because it's a big step and it's, whatever. And what I said and what came out was fascinating to me. That speaks to what you just said. I was like, I think I just want somebody to give it to me. And I know that that's not going to happen. And it makes me so afraid. I think I just want it to be handed to me. But at the same time, I know that's going to be so unfulfilling. And so these two parts of me were like, the child was like, just give it to me, you know? And the adult who's like, no, I want to work for it. And I want to experience the growth that comes with it. And I want the fulfillment. And so like you said, the universe will give you ideas and this and that, but it's not going to be handed to you. Mm-hmm. And so I am constantly reminding myself of that. Right? Because number one, I'm in a relationship where like she hands me whatever I want. Like she's like the sweetest, most wonderful woman I've ever met in my life. Mm-hmm. And she'll bend over backwards. But that doesn't help when I have to make big decisions.
Nope.
And so exactly what you're saying. Yesterday, I was like, I want it to be handed to me, but I don't want it to be handed to me. Right. And the universe will always give you the tools you need to take you to the next level.
Oh, so good. So as we wrap up, and it's so hard for me to say goodbye every time.
I'm like, sure, just make it longer this week.
Let's just talk for 3 hours. Y'all want to go along with us for that, right? Maybe we will do an intensive one day. Back to my potato dream. Because I think this is a great, random, weird space to end it on. Is at the end, I was thinking about how, in the space of becoming and back to the universe really doesn't care what decision you make. Like people, I think there's a beautiful spiritual plane to this, whether you're a Christian or a Sufi or whatever, an atheist, when it comes to the process of becoming, you have all of these choices available to you. And it is less about making the right choice as it is about making the choice that feels right to you in that moment.
Ooh,
right? Mm-hmm. We're always in this space of course correcting. I know it's delicious. I have to remind myself of that all the time because type 7s have this innate fear of missing out. If I make this choice, like those choose your adventure books in the 90s fucked me over, like freaked me out.
And I have a fear of making the wrong choice. Like, will I end up in the right place? It's like, fucking, you'll end up in a place. Like you're not ending up in any place because you're not making a choice to go.
I want all the places. You want the Nirvana place. I get it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. And so going perfectly along that, it's like a infinitely long baked potato bar. You get to pick all these incredible toppings. And so you can look,
bacon.
Right? Look at the leap as a way to add more toppings to your wonderful baked potato. There's so many things out there for you to discover, but you got to take the leap.
Yeah. I mean, mic drop. Yeah.
Baked potato bar for the win.
I'm hungry now.
The spiritual life lessons from a potato, y'all. Thank you.
My tummy is grumbling up. Baked potato now. All the toppings, not the perfect toppings.
Thank you for joining us, guys. We cannot wait to see what you create after you make the leap or not make the leap, whatever is right for you.
And we're super grateful for you for listening to us, for coming along this journey with us, because it's just as much a journey for us as it is for you. We're exploring all of these things alongside you, and we love having you here.
Thanks for listening to the Undressing the Spirit podcast. I pray you found some inspiration and titillation today. As always, I am forever grateful for 5-star reviews, comments, and subscriptions on iTunes and anywhere else you may be listening to this broadcast. Please note the information provided is not meant to convey professional, psychological, or medical advice. If you could use such services, I highly recommend seeking them out from someone you trust. To get in touch with me personally, please check out ariatherapy.com or talesfromatrapezoid.com. Until next time, everyone.